Hello, everybody. This is Julie from Julie or J-Bug from Dream, Create, Inspire. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, and click on all so that you get notifications when I go live or when I upload a video like this one. Today we are reading from Storytime. So this is Storytime for children. We are on chapter 8, or the 8th story, Beth and Betty. Cheerfulness and helpfulness are the character qualities that we will be seeing in here. Okay, once upon a time, there was a little girl named Beth who had two faces. One face was a very pretty, smiling face. Beth wore this face only when there were visitors in her house or around strangers. Her other face, a frowning, unhappy face, she put on whenever she was around her family. The people who loved her best and who did the most for her. When her Aunt Margaret came for a long visit, everyone hoped Beth would be wearing her pretty face all the time. And she did, for several days. Aunt Margaret brought her camera with her and took several pictures of Beth with her pretty smile. But after a few days, Aunt Margaret became just like a regular member of the household. And then she learned about Beth's other face. One day, Beth was in her room playing when Mother called, "Beth, would you please come and help me set the table for dinner? Will you?" Okay. "I just hate to set the table," complained the angry little girl in her angriest tone of voice. She threw down the game she was playing and came into the kitchen where her mother and Aunt Margaret were sitting getting dinner ready. Beth was wearing her other face, the frowning, unhappy face. She didn't see her aunt pick up her camera. There was a soft click. Then Beth didn't hear it. But Beth didn't hear it. She was so busy slamming drawers and scattering the silverware as she unhappily began to set the table as her mother had asked. The next morning, Beth came down to breakfast after everyone else had finished. She was still wearing her unhappy face. Aunt Margaret was sitting at the breakfast table reading the newspaper. On the table in front of her sat her camera. Mother brought Beth some cereal and orange juice and toast, but nothing seemed to please the little girl. She fussed and complained about everything. In fact, she was so cross and miserable and so busy complaining that she didn't notice at all when her aunt picked up the camera and took a picture or two. Throughout the day, Aunt Margaret took a lot of pictures. All day long she was snapping this picture, then that. She took so many pictures that everyone soon stopped paying attention and went right on with whatever they were doing, while Aunt Margaret took their picture. Late that afternoon, Aunt Margaret said, "Beth, would you like to see the pictures I've taken today? I can put them on the computer from my camera, and you can see them on the screen." "Okay," Beth agreed, and stood by the computer while her aunt connected the cables to the camera. Soon the images were loaded and began appearing on the screen. "Oh, look," Aunt Margaret said, pointing to the picture of Beth she had taken at the breakfast table that morning. "That looks just like you. The last thing your grandmother said to me when I left to come here was, 'Be sure to get some good pictures of Beth.'" Beth looked at the picture of herself and wondered if her grandmother really would be happy to see it after all. Then, one by one, her aunt began to scroll through all the pictures she had taken during the day. There were a lot of pictures of Beth, and she was wearing her frowning, unhappy face in nearly every one. She wished she could delete them all. But of course, it was her aunt's camera, and she couldn't. She didn't like these pictures at all. Beth was even more unhappy the next day. Aunt Margaret had printed color copies of the pictures. She had a large color print of the picture of Beth at the breakfast table, looking all cross and angry and miserable. "I printed it especially for your grandmother," she told Beth. "She'll probably want to hang it on the wall at home." "Aunt Margaret, please don't give it to grandmother," begged Beth. "I don't think it looks nice at all. Here, give her this one." And Beth picked up a picture of herself wearing her happy face, the one she wore when visitors were around. "We'll give grandmother both pictures," Aunt Margaret said. "We'll call one Beth and the other one we'll call Betty. In fact, let's tape them up on the wall here by the computer. You can decide which face you want to stay up. When you're wearing your happy face, we'll put Beth on the wall. But when you're wearing your frowning face, we'll take Beth down and put up Betty. You can decide which picture stays up." After that, Beth wore her happy face for several days, and her aunt took down Betty and left Beth on the wall. But habits are hard to break, and one day Betty came down to breakfast instead of Beth. So Betty's picture went back up on the wall. That very morning, a friend of Mother's stopped by the house. She saw Betty on the wall and asked, "Whose picture is that?" "Oh," Mother replied to her friend, "that is a little girl who comes here quite often. Her name is Betty." Beth was so embarrassed she slipped upstairs to her room. Aunt Margaret found her there a little while later, crying as if her heart would break. She sat down beside Beth on the floor and took her hand. "Beth," she asked, "do you know what a hypocrite is?" Beth shook her head. "A hypocrite is a person who pretends to be something he or she isn't. You are either Beth or Betty. If you are really and truly like Betty and only pretend to be like Beth when strangers are around, then you're a hypocrite. And to be a hypocrite is worse than being Betty. Really, though, I believe you are Beth at heart, but you've gotten into the habit of acting like Betty. So much so that it's possible Beth may go away completely and never come back. I think it's time now to send either Beth or Betty away for good, don't you? Beth nodded her head. Well, which little girl do you want to be? I want to be Beth, she sobbed. Good, said her aunt. That's what I thought. I'm glad to see Betty go, and I'm sure your mother will be too. Now, I'm going to take Betty down off the wall, and if she ever comes back, I promise not to show her picture to Grandmother. I will be going back home in a month. That's a long time, and if Betty hasn't come back before I leave, then I think I can count on it. I think we can count on it that she won't ever come back. And I'll throw away all the pictures of Betty and delete them out of my camera, and we will just forget about her completely. Now, Betty didn't want to leave, and Beth had to work hard to drive her away with a cheerful smile. But she did. And before Aunt Margaret left, Beth watched her delete all the pictures of Betty from her camera. You won't show Grandmother any pictures of Betty, will you? Beth asked anxiously. There aren't any pictures of Betty left to show her, replied Aunt Margaret. I don't think Betty is ever going to come back again to have her picture taken. I don't think so either, Beth said with a smile. I don't think she is coming back at all. Let's hope not. Okay, some think about it questions for you kids. Maybe even for your parents or guardians. Do you have more than one face? Which one do you wear most often? Why are habits so difficult to change? Yeah, that's something good to think about even for us adults. I have more than one face. And you know, the sad faces are quite, you don't want to see them. The sad and mad faces. So, I don't think I will show those faces again. Not at all. That was the end of the story, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for listening, and please come back and watch next time. Until then, see you later. Have a good day.